thought I would do would be to share with you my top 10 tips for how to improve, develop or create a garden from scratch. It's by no means a definitive list, and it's just things that I've built up with experience that work for me, and I'm sure they'll work for you. Number one is relax, enjoy the space, enjoy being out there first and foremost, but relax with things that don't work. It's a living thing, it's always evolving. Some things work, some things don't work, some things might be in the wrong place and it might not thrive. So just observe it, lift it, move it to somewhere else that you think suits it better, and relax with that. Don't worry about your failures. It's a constant learning experience, and I'm learning all the time, every year, doing new things, finding things that work, finding things that don't work. But don't beat yourself up about it, just enjoy it, enjoy the process. So number two is know your plant life cycles. I know it sounds boring, but stick with me, I promise it's helpful. Basically, you've got annuals, perennials, biennials, bulbs, trees, shrubs. If you can get an idea about what those are and how they grow and how the life cycle works, it'll help your garden and no end, and the layout of your garden and how it looks. Basically, annuals do all the life in 1 year. So they grow from seed, they grow, the flower, the set seed and the die in a year. There's not really much you can do about that. They tend to flower a lot and quickly, so they're good for impact. There tends to be two types of annuals, just to confuse things further, which is you get a hardy, which will survive frost. So things like cornflowers, those types of things, they're hardy. And you get half hardy annuals, which won't survive frost. So those are these traditional sort of bedding schemes that we see in parks and gardens, geraniums, marigolds, those types of things, begonias. They won't survive the frost. Biennials do their growing and flowering over 2 years. So they grow from seed, they put on growth, they bulk up in the first year, then they survive the winter, and then next year they start growing a bit more, then they flower and they set seed, and then they die. So your traditional foxglove, the pink foxglove, that's a biennial, the most common biennial we know. And perennials come back every year, so they'll survive through the winter in most conditions. They'll survive through the winter and they'll regrow again next year. Number three is come in from the edge of the garden with your beds. Be as generous as possible with those. There's a tendency for us all to have this narrow strip of flowers and plants around the edge and a big lawn in the middle. And I know it makes it easier to cut the lawn and it feels a bit safer, but come in as much as possible. Make them really generous, those beds. You won't regret it, you really won't. And if you can make some big natural curves alongside the edges of those beds as well, it's going to give a much more natural, much more generous feel, much more depth to those beds, and you're going to enjoy them a lot more. You're going to be able to get more plants in there, it'll have much more of an impact, and you won't miss cutting all that grass. Number four is stick to a theme, whatever that is, whether that's colour contrast, so maybe purples and yellows against each other, or all similar colours in reds and pinks. Whatever it is that you want that space to be, stick to that theme and be generous with that. Replicate the same plants, the same colours across that theme. And the theme might be tropical, or it might be a Japanese space, but just stick to that. If you want to have multiple areas in your garden, then divide them so you have a transition from one to the other. Here I've got my flower beds on this side and I've got my vegetables and fruit at the back, and I needed to divide the area, so I planted this and training this apple hedge here, so it provides us with apples, but it also breaks the spaces up, so to the eye it looks much more natural, and it makes the garden less truncated and mixed up. Suddenly you've got different spaces, and then that's fine. You can have completely different styles in different areas as long as you divide them up somehow. Number five is go bold and go tall. Go bold with your colours and go tall with your plants near the edge of the beds, particularly perennials. Shrubs a bit different, but perennials in particular, get them close to the edge of the beds. There's a tradition maybe from parks and gardens that we have the really small bedding plants up to the edge of the beds, and then we go bigger. But don't be afraid to go big near the edge of the beds. It creates much more of an interesting look, and it hides paths, and it's just more dynamic to the eye. Number 6 is sit and watch the sun. Get a book, a magazine, a drink, get a nice chair, take it outside and sit and watch the sun going around your garden. It's essential research. Tell your kids, your partner, you can't be disturbed. You've got having all day in the sun because you're carrying out important research. And what you're going to do is you're going to watch the sun track around your garden. You're going to see what bits are in shade, what bits are in sun all day, what bits are in shade all day, what bits are getting sun in the morning, sun in the afternoon. And then when you're looking for plants and you see those labels and it says partial shade or full sun, you know exactly where they're going to thrive in your garden. Number 7 is mulch, and if I can give you any tip to do, it's mulch your garden as much as you possibly can. It's another of those complicated horticulture words that we only use in horticulture, but it's not complicated at all. All it is a process of putting organic material, so garden compost, spent mushroom compost, well rotted manure, bark chippings, over your soil to a depth of 2 to 3 inches. Don't put it on top of your plants, put it around the plants because it can rot the crown of your plants. And what this will do is it'll conserve moisture, it'll stop weeds coming up, it'll break down slowly, releasing all those nutrients into the soil, and it'll also encourage all that good soil life as it breaks down that material. Number 8 is propagate your own plants. Again, I know that sounds really scary already, but just grow your own plants from seed. Try and grow them from seed, try and grow them from cuttings. I've got a couple of videos hopefully to show you on seed sowing and on cuttings, but one thing to spend money on is perlite or vermiculite. Both the types of volcanic rock, and you add them to your compost and you add them to the surface of the compost, and it'll absolutely revolutionise your success rate of cuttings and of seed sowing. Number 9 is encourage wildlife. Obviously it's a great thing to do in terms of looking after bees and the general ecosystem, but what it does is it creates a great balance in your garden, and you'll find that eventually, yes, you might still get some slug damage, you might get a bit of aphid damage, those types of things, but you get a much nicer balance over time. But it does take time to sort of be organic and encourage that wildlife and not use chemicals. But you do start to notice a difference. I've started to notice a difference in this garden after a few years of doing that. So put up bug hotels. Don't be too tidy with your grass. Leave it every now and again, a few more days, so there's some daisies or some clover come for the bees to go to. Grow open flowers, so flowers that you can see the centre of, so that bees can get into those and get the nectar out of there. Your flowers that are doubles and closed, things like that, the bees can't get in, so they're no use in terms of, they might look good, but they're no use in terms of providing nectar for bees. Number 10 is have multiple seats, multiple places to sit in the garden. Have some in sun, some in shade, different angles of the garden. That way it'll get you out there and get you enjoying the space, and just spend time in the space and enjoy it.